Yo, what's up, guys? And if this, yo, what's up, guys? If this is your most hated message on your screen in Summoners War, repeat battles, and due to inefficient rune space storage, blah blah blah, annoying shit, then this might be the video for you. There are a bunch of things that I did already explain with the rune selection and what kind of runes to keep. I definitely do recommend watching those videos. Those are in the description down below. But even after that, at some point you will get to the point where you're just saving way too many runes. Like, sure, I can say all 3 runes over here because of the cell selection. I'm not gonna go too much in the cell selection. That's definitely for that other video. Would recommend to check that out if you want to look more into that. But I can also say that there's a lot of people that put the cell selection way too high, and then they're selling like 90% of the runes, or even like 99% of the runes, and then they're like, I'm not improving. Why am I not improving? I'm not keeping any runes. Like, yeah, you put the cell selection to an impossible freaking standard. Of course, you're not gonna get things then. For me, for example, like, I would recommend for other people to roll this, but I do already know for myself, 28s in this slot is not gonna help me that much. So I do put them pretty high. So that's also one thing. At some point, for people that hoard too many runes, you got to keep in mind that if you're not planning to put grinds on a rune, then you might as well just kind of sell it. But that's for the very end game players that already do have a good amount of runes. Like, let's say you have this amount of runes or something like that. This is mainly where the video is for those kind of guys. The other videos of what runes to keep, what to sell, what to roll for, definitely would recommend to check the previous videos. They are a little bit older, but they are definitely still, like, they hold value to the base core of what is the idea of a good rune, what you should be looking at. Should you just be looking at improvements, or should you just be looking at improving your depth and keeping everything that might be usable in the future as well? It's that second part, but watch those other videos. However, in this video, there's actually something new that is added recently that makes it a lot easier to find your hoarded previous runes and sell those. Because we all do know the system by now, or at least I think most people do know the system by now, and otherwise that's going to be a first step. Yeah, it's kind of on the Guildongs as well, but the Guildongs were just for roll boss in case you're asking. You do know that a lot of people keep a lot of those 1 stars of the... or level 1s of the 4 stars or 6 stars, wherever you made them at, of all of the normal elemental, or all of the LD4s, but also adding in a lot of these for placeholder runes. So mine are kind of messed up where most of them don't really have runes. You kind of have to get back to it at some point of saying like, okay, I took runes from them, I should actually fill them with runes again. That is definitely the way to go. So if you have way too little storage space, then this could be step 1 to actually start doing this, and then just store runes on it that you might think in the future this might be an okay rune. For example, this in the future I might think like, okay, it has pretty decent stats. It's quite some off maxing, but it has decent stats. This one, for example, has decent stats, not using it right now. And those are the kind of runes that you want to keep on those. But if you do that for a long time, you're at some point going to be hoarding a lot of those runes on those units that you're never actually going to be looking at, because you don't see them in your in this storage where you just see the non-equipped runes. So you're never really going to be thinking about selling those or doing something with them. There's actually a very nice way that is added in the game, which is Subproperty sum. It's been added in the game for I think like 2 or 3 patches right now. But what does this do? Well, technically this is rune efficiency in the game. So what does it look at? Well, it's first going to put in all ancient runes. Kind of can ignore those unless you want to check at the bottom, like if those are actually kind of useful or not. But after that, you can see that it's going to be looking at the efficiency of a rune. And it does check out for how much is like flat stats and that kind of stuff. I'm not entirely sure what's the formula behind this, but it's not going to look at the grinds or gems at all. Gems maybe, but grinds for sure not. So it's going to look at this like, okay, 1 of max, and then 3 of max. So therefore it's super high up. But it's also going to get these kind of runes where you have like, okay, 2 of max, 1 of max, and then this is 3 of max, and then decent innate as well. What does this help you? Well, this could help you to place grinds. That's the first thing, if you sort it this way. But if you sort it the other way, you're going to find all of your runes, and I just did a little bit of rune farming to force in that message of saying like, okay, too many runes. But let's actually quickly exclude those by doing this. So let's say I upped all of my runes. I'm just going to look at the runes that I didn't up yet, or that I already did up. Then we're going to see like, okay, this one, okay, it's still useful because it has the specific stats. I can still grind that. Same for this one, but this way, okay, re-up targets, definitely something that we want to keep. This, yeah, okay, I could keep it as a re-up target if you can ever re-up it. I kind of already did this a little bit, so for that reason, it's harder to find things that already super sellable. So I do find most of my re-up targets in here, but you are going to be possibly finding runes that are super old that you might be like, okay, this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's pretty bad, but it's a fight rune, so you can kind of keep it. So that's maybe an argument for that one. This one, however, has the good stats, is kind of okay. Re-up target, re-up target. I could even exclude the re-up targets because I know my 2 and my 3 are the re-up targets, so that makes things probably a little bit easier. But from here, you could actually start seeing like, okay, this rune is pretty bad. Let's just sell it. But now, one step further that you could go is saying like, okay, I want to view all of the equipped runes as well. And therefore, I'm going to see all of the runes on the units that are equipped that I'm most likely not looking at using. Like something like this. Like, sure, I might use it if I want the 0 speed on that. That could be a thing. But let's see on this one. Yeah, super high in flat stats on everything. So that's just straight up useless. And it's also good to look at runes that are plus 12, because in the end, plus 12 runes does mean that you actually never used it in the past. Does that mean that you're not going to use it in the future? It's good to reevaluate those kind of runes, like, okay, might it actually be any good? Could be a cocky kind of rune. This thing looks pretty horrible. Let's just sell. Okay, it's on Rune Dover. Yeah, that already does say like how much I've been using that kind of rune. So this is definitely a way, and sure, it takes time. It takes a good amount of time, but this is definitely also where you're gonna be finding your blue runes, because they just in general have lower rune quality than the other runes out there. When would I recommend people to do this? I would do this when you just have quite some time to look at your phone and not really have anything else to do. What does that mean? Well, I would say something along the lines of public transport, or just when you're bored, or watching a movie that you kind of watch on the side but also don't really care too much about watching, or something like that. You probably have some moments at the day, or get on a treadmill and do it on the treadmill, like something like that. Like you see this thing in the corner over here, right there. That's like these home bikes kind of bullshit. That's where I do it, right? So gotta try to get it shaped, like not I care that much, but that kind of stuff, right? So those are the moments that I do it, and that's probably also like you can see how many absolutely terrible runes I find in here, and this is definitely one of those super easy ways to find those runes. And I could probably sell like I would say honestly probably like 500-ish runes if I would take this to a good consideration of what are bad runes and what should I start selling them on, and those kind of things. And then I can actually apply that first method, or the other method that I mentioned earlier, of saying like, okay, I'm going to be placing all of those runes back to like the 1-star units, and then actually adding in the good runes in there, rather than just whatever shit runes and just calling it a day. So those are definitely steps that I think would help out a lot of people getting their runes in. Might you ask, like, okay, what do you place then on those placeholder units? What kind of runes do you go for? Let's see, I noticed that this one was empty. You could say, like, okay, I'm just going to be placing in whatever I can find. I'm doing the very lazy step, which I don't recommend most people to do, which is just auto-engrave. I would only recommend doing this if you have way too much mana, because if you auto-engrave, it's very likely going to be taking runes that are decent to good, and therefore are also more likely to be used once again the moment you start upgrading your next unit. So if you do auto-engrave, it is the lazy way out, which isn't too bad. It's definitely a nice way to just start filling it super fast, but it's better to actually check it yourself and then go from there, because otherwise you're probably going to be equipping runes, unequipping those runes later on because you need them for the next build, and so on. You could do the auto-engrave just to have everything filled pretty fast, and then check like, okay, I don't want to use that one. These are all kind of fine. Well, this one is most likely used somewhere else. The other ones are kind of fine. Okay, this one I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's going to take your best runes first. So that's kind of the thing where you're like, okay, maybe I'm not entirely sure. What you could do, for example, is saying like, okay, I'm just going to be equipping all re-up targets. So if you just go around all of your re-up targets, it's definitely recommended to have those re-up targets named by this thing. So I have re-up 1, that's the high priority re-up, second priority re-up, needing grinds, needing enchants, and is done. And I just show bananas is purple because you can change the text to whatever you want. So you could go around and just equipping all of those re-up targets to units, because you're not going to be using any re-up targets anytime soon anyways, right? So having all re-up targets on those is definitely not bad. It's also good to start adding in runes that might be something that you were like, okay, if I get this one specific unit, it might be a good rune. Yeah, it's something like that you could do. So those are definitely a few tips that I think could help you make a lot of rune space, and I definitely do recommend you to do it, because otherwise it's always this pinnacle annoying thing. It's like, oh, I gotta make rune space, but I don't want to. And this is actually a pretty nice way to just adding all re-up targets to all of these units without having to do, well, at some point you're gonna notice you have a lot less re-up targets on slot 2 maybe. Then you just equip either whatever slot 2 or you just leave the slot 2 empty. So with that, also these kind of runes, it's just, wait, can I not just straight up sell from this right now? No, within here, I first have to unequip and then still sell. That's kind of annoying, but because you are able to sell straight from the unit right now, but just not in that moment. So yeah, a little bit annoying, but definitely still fine. And it's definitely very nice to make extra rune slots that way. So that's, and same whole principle actually works for artifacts as well, I'm pretty sure of. Let's actually see if it works as good for artifacts. So if we go to artifacts, I'm pretty much on max storage for artifacts as well. We would have to, well, the thing is, if you set it on this, that's kind of the annoying thing. With Obtained, you can see all artifacts in one go. You could do the cell selection for your artifacts, and it's going to add in a lot of artifacts based on your current cell selection that you have, which is pretty nice. I would definitely recommend to double check if those artifacts are all bad or they're maybe actually kind of good. I'm surprised that this one would be added in with the cell selection, because of Win 16, I'm pretty sure that I would include those normally. So definitely something you do want to double check. I would say, wait, did I? It should be going for those. So yeah, definitely recommended to double check like what is it all selling and for what reason, because otherwise you might be selling some stuff that is kind of good and it's like a combining thing that might actually be kind of decent, and you might definitely be selling way too much stuff, which is definitely an option if you use this. But that's the thing with the cell exclusion in artifacts. You do get a lot of these artifacts out there because you do know what the plus 12 of an artifact is. And by knowing the plus 12 of the artifact, it can give you a lot more chance of saying like, okay, I know what's good, I know what's bad, and therefore I can start selling things. In runes, you first have to plus them, and then you can do the cell selection on them. So it's a little bit more of a tedious process to check. It would be super nice if they actually upgrade all of your runes to straight up plus 9s or straight up plus 6, and then from there you could instantly see if it's any useful. Okay, this one is strange because wind on wind should be something that I should, at least a 17 should be something that I should not be excluding right away. So that is kind of a weird thingy. I just have to double check where that is coming from, because I have wind. Oh, with wind on wind I have 22. Yeah, that explains. Yeah, don't mess up these things, otherwise you're gonna be selling way too much of your stuff. So do keep in mind that sometimes a one line could be something bad, but the second line could be something interesting. So be careful with selling this many artifacts right from the get-go, but it is a decent way to clean up your artifacts as well if you have those cell selection in there. Then there's one thing which I do think Cantus just has to improve the amount of storage, which is grinds. Because sure, I could be starting to sell all of those or just trying to apply everything on everything, but I would say for grinds and gems, since it is stackable, it doesn't cost them any storage, just improve the storage on this thing. You might also say improve the storage on your runes and your artifacts. Yes, but the moment that they improve, let's say that they improve this storage to 5,000. Then in 3 years, you're going to have the same problem as now. You got to clean up your shit. So sure, I would like this a little bit higher, like maybe 100, 200 higher or something like that. Same for this thing. But in the end, the problem is going to be there. You're just postponing the limit of when the problem will happen. And you got to start cleaning those runes at some point. So definitely, first of all, check out the videos that I linked below of the cell exclusion, but also what kind of runes to keep and sell. Secondly, go for all of those runes placed on those placeholder units. And then that way you just have a lot more rune space. And I would say definitely recommend it to put all of the re-up targets in there, all of the runes that you never plus 15 on there, all of the runes that you maybe still have to place grinds on. Well, that rune you're gonna get used, but maybe runes that you would say like, okay, if I pull a Zerath, I'm gonna be using that, or if I pull this or that unit, I'm gonna be using that. Place this all on like level 1 units or on the 3-star LNDs or 4-star LNDs, like anything you want to place runes on. You can put a lot of runes in this storage if you would really, really max it out. Because you have 800 units in your storage, times 6, that is a lot of runes that you can put in there, plus then your 120 of your normal, plus then you have another like 1200 in your storage. You can probably store up like 7k runes or something, I don't really know, but there's a lot of them that you could store to it, but it's going to get very messy if you start storing all of that, then you're not going to be finding anything anymore. And therefore, this thing that is added new, the subproperty sum, is definitely something you can use. I also briefly mentioned it. You can also use this in reverse to find what you might want to put grinds on. So if we select all of those again, if I were to say like, okay, I want to start grinding something, let's see, grinds over here. Let's say that we are placing a... let's find some legendary thing that kind of does matter. Legendary defense on this. So I have a lot of places I can put legendary defense on. And I'm pretty sure... Wait, can you not put it by... No, wait, here is just subproperty. Ah, that's kind of shit. Why did I not add in the some subproperty? So, okay, from there you can't find those yet. So you would have to do it from here, and then you would have to check like, okay, these are good runes, and then from there you actually put in the grind. So it's the reversed order. Too bad that they didn't add in the other one yet. So, but it's kind of the reversed order, but you could find runes that you're like, oh wait, I didn't actually grind this to a 5 yet, which I might want to do because it's like super high on the stats on the other things. Let's say that HP was in here and was actually a good rune. So yeah, with that you can maybe find your grind runes, like something like this, like, oh wait, I never actually put a 4 in here, but this is pretty good and usable. Found it right now. So that's definitely where you could be finding those spots in, like, okay, maybe I should start looking from here if I want to place my grinds in. So bunch of tips. If you liked any of those tips, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If there's any other tips that you might have, let me know in the comments as well, and hope to see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the dungeon guide archive and the video guide archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.